It was a restless May morning in 2018 when Boxburg was shaken awake. Two armored vans rumbled down Atlas Road, their drivers blind to the storm waiting ahead. Then came a deafening blast out of nowhere. The ground shuddered, cars spun out, and a black cloud swallowed the street. Money burst into the sky, drifting like confetti, while stunned bystanders froze, phones in hand, unsure if they were watching a movie or history in the making. But this was no random ambush. This was the calling card of Wellington Grenenda, the shadowy mastermind of South Africa's most feared cash-in-transit syndicate. For years, he moved unseen, untouchable. But on that morning, his empire would ignite the chain of events that finally dragged his ghost into the light. Wellington Grenenda's story began in Tembisa, a highly populated South African village where people fought every day to stay alive. There were a lot of families living in small homes, so the streets were tense. In every corner, one could hear the sound of fighting. A lot of kids had to turn to crime because it was the only way for them to make money. As a child, BB saw boys his age steal wallets, bread, and run away into alleys before the cops could arrive. Growing up poor shaped his personality, but it also made him smarter by making him see life as a survival game where only the bravest won. BB saw how the strong could control the weak from a very young age. He saw how fear could bend men faster than hunger. Gangsters over 50 drove stolen cars and flashed cash, while their families lived better than everyone else on the block. BB didn't envy them like other people did. Instead, he studied them. He learned who was valued and who wasn't, and he paid close attention to how small-time crooks rose or fell. He was thinking and planning in his quiet, so that he wouldn't become just another nameless con artist. Before anyone else saw him, he was already making plans for his climb. Most kids his age were happy with scraps, but BB was hungry beyond the neighborhood. He wasn't happy robbing stores on the street or stealing from people in crowded taxi stands. Too many people went to jail before they turned 20 because of that kind of money, which was easy to get, but never last. BB wanted more. He wanted so much power that people would bow down when they heard his name. He valued fear and respect more than a wallet that had been stolen. He walked in a different way. He was quiet, watched, and never rushed. Others were bragging about small wins, but BB stayed focused and planned what would happen next. He thought more clearly and coldly, and he planned every move like a chess game, always 3 steps ahead. People paid attention when he spoke because his words were important and not just noise. Being able to control himself gave him his first taste of being in charge of other people. BB needed men who shared his vision in order to put his plans into action. He didn't hire the guys in the township who were the loudest or the most feared. He chose people with discipline instead, people who could do what they were told and keep secrets. He slowly put together a group of men who all had a job to do. There were drivers who could get away from the police, lookouts who could fit in with the crowd, and who never shook when they were at. This wasn't just a group of people, it was a machine in the making. Tato the bomber, Galpatewi, stood out from the rest of them. He had a wild personality, but he was very good at setting off blast-making devices. This gave BB's team an edge that none of their competitors had. Tato could break armored cars like tin cans, and word quickly spread about how well he could control his blasts. BB knew that his group was no longer just a bunch of street thugs with him on board. They were becoming a specialized force that could do things that needed accuracy instead of desperation. In the years between 2014 and 2016, BB's crew went from being amateurs to pros. What began as small thefts quickly turned into operations like those in the military that shook whole towns. They stopped depending on luck and started doing research instead. They looked at routes where cash was being sent, marked exact delivery times, and even put agents inside security companies to help them. Every hit was clean, quick, and done with a level of concentration that was scary. With each success, BB made more money, and his name rang out louder in the criminal world. The police began to notice the change. These weren't the careless smash and grabs that happen a lot in the slums. The thefts looked like military raids and were planned with as much care as official task groups. BB turned his team into a hidden army, and each job made them more brave. He was like a ghost for the cops. They knew he was out there but could never find him. With each escape, the mystery around him grew. By 2016, BB's fame had spread to Limpopo, Northwest, and Mpumalanga, as well as Gauteng. Once brave, rival workers started skipping jobs if they thought his team was involved. People spoke BB's name with both respect and fear. Those who wanted to be him spoke it with respect, and those who didn't want to cross him spoke it with fear. People told each other about his strikes in bars, townships, and police offices. The ghost was real, and no one could touch him. The 17th of May 2018 started in Boxburg, Gauteng. Like any other weekday, it was very busy on the streets, with people running to get their kids to school and people going to work. Two armored cars from G4S slowly drove down Atlas Road in the middle of the morning rush. For people walking by, they looked like normal mail carriers, just moving steel boxes with money inside that few people would ever touch. No one thought that this normal morning would quickly turn into one of the scariest heists in South Africa. This wasn't just another job for BB's team. They had worked on it for months, and it was their masterpiece. There was a lot of cash in the vans, and their route had been planned out to the last detail. It was possible to keep track of every police sweep, every stoplight, and every traffic jam until the time was right. BB's men were already there. They were watching from stopped cars, their engines revving eagerly. Atlas Road was about to become a war zone after the trap was set. As soon as the signal came, BB's group hit hard. Two cars sped forward and hit the protected vans so hard they broke bones. The metal screamed as the van shook to a stop, trapped with no way out. Almost right away, doors flew open, and armed men with their raised poured into the street. They fired into the sky, scattering people on the street. The sound of their screams mixed with the thunder of the as cracked overhead. Drivers got out of their cars and ran. The street, which had just been full of normal people, turned into a fight that BB's crew was in charge of. In an effort to get away from the chaos, people hid behind walls and under cars. BB picked his guys very well. They worked together as a team and knew their jobs without any doubt. It was too late to change course now that the perfect trap had been set. Tato, the bomber Galpate, the man everyone was afraid of, then came. He was calm in the middle of chaos and carried charges that were meant to break the armored cars open like eggshells. Tato got down on all fours and set off blast makers against the reinforced steel while his team watched from the outside. After a few seconds, there was a loud explosion in the street that shook the ground and broke windows. The air was cut with force by the smoke and metal bits that fell from the sky. People on the street screamed as the shockwave went through the road. Fear filled the air as alarms went off and cars shook. A gray haze of dust covered everything. It wasn't just a theft anymore. It was a show of fire and noise, a thunderous warning. BB's men didn't move. They kept moving forward with a steely determination. In the chaos, the armored vans' walls broke. They were once impenetrable, but now the cruel touch has torn them apart. After that, people saw something that would stay with them for years. The blast caused bags inside the van to split open, letting bags of cash fall out into the open air. Notes rose and spun in the smoke, shining like confetti in the sunday. At first, it didn't seem real. It was like the city was pouring money on everyone. Some onlookers filmed with trembling hands, while others just stood there in shock. In the end, clips of bills flying across Atlas Road as armed men swept through like troops would go around the world. Some people even put their lives at risk to pick up notes that were lying around, dodging bullets as they did so. But this wasn't free money. It was money made from killing people in fear and chaos. BB made sure the scene would be remembered for a long time. It was a cash storm that showed the whole country how powerful he was. People who saw it thought it was the day South Africa saw crime dressed up as play. As soon as the money was safe, BB's team moved with perfect discipline. They put the bundles into bags, loaded their cars, and got ready to leave. They kept track of every second and timed every step. They knew how long it would be before the police came. As the men piled into waiting cars, engines roared to life. Their exit was just as sharp as their entry. Within minutes, the street was filled with smoke, and pieces of money were still floating in the air. The sirens could be heard too late. When the police got to Atlas Road, the crew was already gone, leaving behind chaos and damage. People in the street were stunned and held on to small stacks of notes like ghostly keepsakes. The protected vans were torn open, leaving behind smoking wrecks of things that were thought to be impossible to damage. BB took over a whole street in less than 10 minutes and then disappeared. The escape wasn't just an escape. It showed how good he was. The Boxburg heist was never just about money for BB. He had enough money from past jobs to live comfortably in the dark. The point of this operation was to show his enemies and the police that he was in charge of the streets. By setting up his show on a busy road, he made the whole country watch him. The show was a message in smoke and BB could not be hurt. South Africa was shocked by the Boxburg heist, which required more than just normal police work. The Hawks, the best crime-fighting team in the country, were sent to lead the charge. They were known for taking on organized crime groups, and now their only goal was to bring down Wellington B.B. Grenenda. He was no longer just another criminal. He was the main enemy of everyone. The Hawks were on the hunt for the ghost and planned to cut off his wings. Everything about the job was huge from the start. BB had built his kingdom on fear, loyalty, and keeping quiet. He knew how to work the system and understand it. The Hawks weren't just after a criminal. They were trying to break up a whole network that operated in secret. Every police officer knew this hunt was different from all the others. The Hawks started where BB's gang was strong, in talking to each other. Phones were wiretapped, cars were watched, and areas where he was known to hang out were under more surveillance. Slowly, a troubling picture began to take shape. BB's business was much bigger than just his street crew. Police officers were giving him information and making sure that roadblocks didn't affect his cars. Security guards gave him transport plans while armored vans were left open. When strange withdrawals showed up, even bank workers didn't question them. BB's long reach showed why no one had been able to touch him for so long. The Hawks weren't just going after one person. They were going after systemic crime. No matter what, the detectives kept going. Every transaction, leak, and whisper was looked into. When they broke into safe places, they often got there minutes too late and saw only cigarette ends and beds that had been left empty. The smell of gasoline was still strong as they pulled burned-out getaway cars from empty lots. BB stayed ahead, but with each raid, more of his defenses were taken away. Cracks began to show as the pressure rose. People who used to be strong start to break down when they are questioned. Some mentioned BB's name, but wouldn't say anything in public because they were afraid of getting in trouble. While others tried to hide, they were eventually found in provinces nearby. Tembisa and Soshanguve turned into important spots for the hunt. It was dark where BB lived, so his shadow was long. But shadows can fade if there is enough light. The Hawks found safe houses full of burned papers, empty cash bags, and weak signs of a man who was always moving around. Each find was like smoke after a fire, proof that something strong had been there but was now gone. The Hawks knew the ghost was getting closer. The story that BB could not be hurt was beginning to fall apart. The leader wasn't controlling the game for the first time. The game was controlling him. He was constantly being disturbed and chased, and his kingdom was slowly falling apart. Safe places, quick escapes, and constant worry. Not even some of his best friends did he trust fully anymore. He went from one area to another at night, and only a small group of loyal men went with him. What used to be a life of power looked like a daily battle to stay one step ahead. But being paranoid doesn't make empires, it breaks them down. BB started to mess up and rushed moves that he used to carefully plan. As insiders were caught and made public, his network got weaker. The system he used to run was now being used against him. There were still walls around him, but he was still free. The search for the suspect had spread across the whole country by the middle of 2018. The Hawks worked together with units in the provinces to get information from all over the country. BB's name was on every briefing, report, and secret talk that went on in police departments. It wasn't just about stopping thefts anymore. The search was also about rebuilding faith in justice across the country. "We will bring him in," the Hawks said, making their promise clear. This vow was repeated on TV and in the newspaper, which was a direct challenge to BB's claim that no one could hurt him. The story of the ghost boss seemed weak for the first time. He wouldn't be able to walk through South Africa alone for much longer. Finally, the hunter was being chased. The evening of July 26, 2018, in Bloemfontein started out like any other. The cold winter air was sharp, and the city streets were empty as people went home for the day. There was a car in the dark near a shopping mall. The engine was humming softly. Most people who saw it thought it was nothing special, just another car waiting in the dark. The patrolling cops, on the other hand, thought something was wrong with it. For months, these police officers had been following weak leads to find South Africa's most wanted man. Their senses got stronger after many nights of false alarms and dead ends. In this case, they couldn't take their eyes off the stopped car. They had to look into it because they were suspicious. And as they got closer, they became more careful. What they found would change the story of a drug lord who seemed invincible at first. The police slowly walked up to the car, circling it like hunters circling their game. A quick check showed that the car had been reported stolen because the license plate didn't match. This wasn't just any car anymore after that one feature changed the whole scene. A driver was sitting inside, calm and still, as if they were waiting for something or someone. Ready for anything, the patrol team fixed their line. They were ready to fight back with maybe even in an aggressive way. The man inside, though, didn't seem scared or upset. He looked normal, almost forgotten. like he wasn't part of the story that was going around in their files. But sometimes, stories don't end with fire. They end with silence. When the driver was asked to show his ID, he calmly reached into his pocket. When the officers looked at the paper, the name Wellington B.B. Grenenda shocked them. The ghost that they had been chasing across provinces was right in front of them. This ghost was the planner behind years of high-profile transit thefts. There were no blasts or drawn. There was just a man driving a stolen car. There was a moment of doubt in the air. This was the person who had run a kingdom. Enemies feared them, and police knew them as a ghost. But here he was, caught without a fight, and without the myth that had kept him safe for so long. It was almost too easy to understand that he had been caught. The South African man who was wanted the most had been caught in the middle of a normal night. It wasn't a small case when Wellington B.B. Grenenda was finally brought before the courts. South Africa had never seen a trial with so many people involved. It was later called the City Mountain Trial. Racketeering, armed robbery, illegal use of firearms, and illegal use of heavy charges to break armored vans were some of the 179 charges against BB and the rest of his team. There was more protection than ever at the Mpumalanga High Court in Middelburg, where the trial took place. A lot of people were tense every day in the courts because the whole country was waiting to see how justice would end years of fear. Prosecutors weren't just trying to punish a man, they were trying to bring down a whole legend. BB became known as a ghost that could not be caught. It was now time for the state to show that the idea of being unbeatable was just smoke. People from other gangs listened to every report, and journalists filled the seats. People who had survived heists watched from a distance. The courtroom had become the stage for the end of BB's business empire. The government came ready with files that tracked BB's every move. Phone records showed that he and his crew talked on the phone during key parts of the heists. Video footage from Boxburg and other places showed how precisely and cruelly the jobs were done. Most damning were the words of guys who had been close to BB but turned on him to protect themselves. Their words made me think of plans, fear, and deception. Each piece of proof broke the story of the ghostly boss. It wasn't impossible to get close to BB. He was just someone who had depended on fear and leaks. Insiders broke the silence by talking about how vans were watched, routes were made public, and safe houses were set up. BB was hurt by the deception, but it made the case against him stronger. The kingdom that was once hard to see had a paper trail that everyone could see. It took months for the trial to end because of delays and a lot of problems. Witnesses were always afraid, and some needed heavy security just to go to court. It took longer to solve the case because at least 2 of the 8 original suspects got away. Lawyers fought over small details, and each delay made the victims wait longer for justice. But the state was set on seeing it through and wouldn't give up. Inside the courtroom, BB sat still and didn't show any emotion. The man who used to shake armored cars with was now facing the law. He watched as the lawyers slowly told him about his huge business empire. Each witness took away a different part of the story. Even though the trial went on for a long time, the result seemed more certain as the days went by. When the judge finally spoke, there was a heavy hush in the chamber. Wellington B.B. Grenenda, who was once feared across the provinces, was given a long prison term. Each member of his crew got punished in their own way, but none of them were as bad as the fall of their boss. Piece by piece, the kingdom he built out of fear and accuracy fell apart, leaving nothing behind. Instead of the ghost, there was an inmate who had lost all of his strength. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.